Well, the NFL and the Players Association announced today that Carolina's medical staff correctly followed concussion protocol guidelines on this hit to Cam Newton during their loss wildcard weekend to the Saints. The league released a statement saying it reviewed game footage and medical reports, as well as statements and interviews with Newton and head coach Ron Rivera, before making the determination that, quote, there was no protocol violation, end quote. It would be a violation if we didn't go to Adam Schefter to talk about potential protocol violations. Our fabulous insider joins us now. What can you tell us about what the NFL found during this review of this hit?
Well, Trey, what they did find was that Cam Newton had a knee injury that he suffered on that play, which we reported on Sunday Countdown a couple of weeks back, and that contributed to that image of him falling awkwardly to the ground. And the league spoke to Panthers coaches, medical officials. They listened to audio from NFL films, the mic'd up pieces, and they found, upon all of those pieces of evidence, that there was no violations of protocol. The league insisted there's nothing to hide here, that Cam Newton did not suffer that concussion, that he did have an eye injury, he did have a knee injury, he did not have a concussion despite the optics on TV and despite the fact that this came about 10 days after the league passed new protocols where any player who was injured or looked like he was hurt had to go to the locker room to be checked out. But the league checked it out in a joint investigation with the NFLPA. It found no evidence of any wrongdoing. There will be no discipline. And the one thing that the league added, Trey, I might add, is that everybody rushed to condemn the league, criticize the league, and speculate on the nature of Cam Newton's injury, and they felt that was unjustified, that until you have the facts of the particular case, the league felt it is better off to refrain until you know. Don't play a judge judging what's going on TV from just that evidence.
Look, Adam, that makes all the sense in the world, but the new protocol concussions or enhanced protocols where if someone has trouble getting off the ground, take him through it. And that certainly looked like that was the case for Cam Newton, whether it was his eye or his knee. He did fall to the ground.
Trey, the optics of it were such that all they had to do was say, okay, we're taking you to the locker room. They could have taken him to the locker room, determined that he didn't have a concussion, and send him back out as he came back into the game anyway. That's not what happened. That's part of why all the speculation ensued, because he came right back in the game, and that's why the league had to address this the way that it did today.
All right, Adam, thanks. We'll check back with you a little later on this edition of NFL Live. Joe, you were in the trenches every play, 10,363 from straight, if I remember correctly. Something that's never been happened before. Again, how you did that, no idea. You've been an outspoken critic of the concussion protocol. What do you think of the way it's set up and used now?
I think the problem is it's just failing too many players right now. You just look back at what happened to Tom Savage during the season, where everybody that's watching TV can clearly tell that he was concussed in a really bad way, and they send him back out there. For some reason, the independent spotter is not doing their job. They don't have enough say and power on the sideline to be able to clearly identify what happened the second it happens and not let those guys back in the game, because we can't have even one player over a 10-year span being failed because it's that important of an issue for our NFL.
And a lot of these players take it so personally. When you take me out of the game, and they fear not being able to return. So sometimes the players almost, I don't know if intimidate is the right word, but almost like Russell Wilson did right there. Here comes the tent. It's like, oh, don't go in the blue tent. I think all the players know that blue tent, there's going to be a problem. So he wanted out. He forced himself back on the field where.
And that's why they were fine. The Seahawks were fine.
There needs to be a point where, I mean, you almost have to forcibly, take the helmet away immediately, because some of these players, I remember Jason Witten a couple years ago, just livid on the sideline that he was taken out. But you'd rather have that reaction there than someone going in there that's been diagnosed with a concussion and they suffer another hit.
To what Adam was saying, we talk about the Tom Savage play, which looked really bad. And when you have that fencing pose is what it's called, that's a clear sign of a trauma, a neurological trauma. And you see what happened with Russell Wilson when he clearly didn't even go to the blue tent. Those are the ones we talk about. There are 100 other times, though, where the protocol is followed. So is there something to what the NFL was saying to Adam? That, look, I get it, those things were bad, but overall the process is working?
We also have to realize, too, the position that those players play that we're talking about. It's quarterback. And when it's the quarterback, there's a whole different range of emotions from the coaches, from the organization, that he has to get back out on the field. Without our quarterback, there's a problem. So he has to get the same type of attention that all the other players do. So I can understand the urgency when it comes to Russell Wilson and how he felt it on the sideline. But there are examples of it working properly also. I do feel that.
Do you think that other players are treated differently than quarterbacks when it comes to how we look at the optics of the concussion protocol?
I think so, and that's why I think we need to take the decision out of the coach's hands, out of the player's hands, because those are the guys that really want that player back in the game, especially if it's your quarterback. We know if your star quarterback's not in the game, you don't have a chance. So they're going to urge those guys to get back in there. And as a quarterback, you don't want to miss anything for your team because you're that leader of that team. And so it needs to be in the hand of an independent spotter. The communication between the spotter, the referee on the field, and all the medical people on the sideline needs to be better and quicker.
And it's almost during the AFC Championship game and what happened to Rob Gronkowski, he's the second most important player on the New England Patriots, you know, especially offensively. So for him to be eliminated from that game, this Super Bowl, there's going to be some big hits doled out. I mean, if there is a critical player, if that was the Super Bowl, I wonder what kind of demeanor Rob would have had. Or
you're exactly right, though, because it really was the hit on Julian Edelman in Super Bowl 49 that got it, because you could see it. The hit he took from the Seahawks defender, I can't remember who it was.
I know what you're talking about, right?
And he got up, and everyone's like, whoa, whoa, and he stayed in the game. That really sort of got the protocols in place. When they're followed, they work. The problem is when you see someone like Savage having that fencing pose and he goes back in, that's when we're like, how did they miss what we all saw?
That's true. The information, how they didn't get that information about that view, about that picture, that scared a lot of people.
Yeah, and to your point, Joe, the whole reason for the protocol is to make sure the coaches and the players don't have a say in it. They want to take it away from them. We just got to make sure every single one of those steps is followed. And we'll have yeah, exactly.